Yo, what is going on, my YouTube people? It is your boy GZTV back with another video, and we are here to talk about Dexter Resurrections. We are here with the second episode. I have just posted my first. It's a review. We are reviewing. We are more like recapping. I kind of went over that in the last video as well, but we are 2 episodes in. There's 3 episodes available. There's about to be 4 by the end of the week, so hopefully we get a 3rd review in by New Music Friday, as well as by the time Happy Gilmore 2 comes out, because I want to get that video out on Saturday. I loved the original. I have to watch the second one. So as always, we kind of talk about what the episode's about in an overview before we get into it. So there's a new serial killer added, escalating gore and tension in the show, which is great. Fatherhood theme prominently is explored, highlighting Dexter's relationship with Harrison. That's going to kind of continue to develop as he's kind of watching from the outside. This episode delves into the darkness, promises detail and storyline development. The show obviously started with a bang. Again, go watch my last review, providing a frantic episode that covered a lot of ground to set up this new series, and this episode benefits from slowing down slightly and developing the established storylines. Yeah, that can be kind of seen as a bad thing. It's not as fast-paced as the first one. It doesn't really gear you in as much. I have pimples on my face, I'm sorry, but still really good. Still really important for the storylines. It's not a slow episode by any stretch, though, as a lot happens to advance the show in a natural and compelling way. Audiences are given a reason to hook onto the main characters, while small teases are provided, giving breadcrumbs for what's about to come. There's a lot of stuff, and that's one thing that the show is really good at, and this universe is really good at, is just hinting at stuff, building towards things. They're doing it well so far. Obviously, there's a new serial killer that arrives in the show, just kind of getting into a giant discussion here. I'm just going to transition straight into it. We're damn near doing this video in one take. Welcome back, the Dark Passenger. I can't believe they hadn't thought of this in the first place. You know, similar to what Dexter said in the episode, why haven't they thought of calling a serial killer the Dark Passenger? Such a sick fucking name that they just now put to use for another character. The first episode of the show was kept at a fast pace, but this one took things to another level as a mysterious figure was shown getting in the back of a rideshare vehicle that isn't for him, like an Uber, you know what I mean. He traps the driver's head with a metal wire, claiming his family lost everything because of people like the taxi driver, setting an ominous tone for the entire episode, as he's then shown decapitated. So it's fucking crazy. It's one of those cold opens, it's one of those freaks of the week type of thing that we saw with the original series, and to an extent, Original Sin as well. It instantly ramps up the gore level for the series, proving that Paramount won't be pulling things back in that regard. And by the way, fuck you, Paramount. I'm just gonna go out there right now and say this. You guys copywrote the fuck out of my last video, and I had to take out a bunch of video clips, so thank you for that. The rideshare world plays a big part in this episode, which is an interesting dynamic, as Dexter uses one to meet Blessing, who quickly becomes a fast friend. Really cool name, by the way. Like, who doesn't like the name Blessing? That's fucking awesome. While their bond is pushed slightly too fast compared to how friendships would usually work, certainly, the on-screen chemistry between them makes this feel somewhat natural. I mean, they're really good actors together. I'm not really familiar with Blessing's actor all that much, but yeah, man, it's kind of unnatural. I will say that's kind of faulty. They're kind of going too quick with that whole storyline. Sorry if I'm sweating a little bit. I went on a walk earlier, but yeah. He reveals to Dexter that a serial killer is taking out rideshare drivers known as the Dark Passenger. It's an instant throwback to the name that Dexter himself used to use about his urges to kill people, and that sets off a trigger within him, proving that once a serial killer, always a serial killer, while also giving fans a nod to the original series. Again, kind of that fan service that we've been talking about with the spin-offs. Starting with the sequel New Blood, you get the prequel series, and now you get another sequel series, and all of those series have done very, very well at kind of just giving the fans kind of some callback to the original while adding some new things, and that's something, I know I sound like a broken record, that's something we're going to continue to touch upon in these videos. Sorry if my room's kind of a mess. Blessing just so happened to have a friend who escaped the Dark Passenger, which is kind of a weird coincidence, and when Dexter attends a party at his house, he's able to gain more information about him. So Dexter's really, like, he wasn't able to really do this when he was Jim Lindsay, but he's really hopping back into that, like, detective, vigilante, blood spatter, forensics bag, which is so fucking cool here. He kind of does it in the last series, but not as much, and I think this series he's going to do it a lot more. Meanwhile, Dexter himself pushes to become a rideshare driver, which is quite the career change from what he's best known for. This episode of the show features a plot that will be familiar to many fans, with Dexter doing lots of research into the Dark Passenger to try and identify them, kind of like a staple of the original series. Eventually, they have a face-to-face interaction by happenstance after Dexter intercepts the killer trying to get into a car. Like, is it really that easy? And honestly, that's like kind of a sentiment I'm holding of this entire show so far. Like, I'm kind of looking at this and I'm like, is it really that easy? Like, come on, guys. Kind of weird, but we'll get into kind of like the fatherhood part again, kind of touching on the 3. Usually I pick like 3 pillars that each episode is about and we dive into it. Next is kind of like the fatherhood theme throughout the episode. This level of character work is what makes the Dexter franchise so popular. It's just, obviously you get to the action, you get to the plot points, but what really builds up the characters and what makes the show great is stuff like this. One of the key elements of this episode is the importance importance of fatherhood, which was established in the first episode. Harry Morgan is quick to point out the violent nature of Harrison's crime and how he was the one who helped Dexter at that age to calm down and be more clinical and careful. Dexter kind of needs to be the same for Harrison. However, obviously Dexter remains cautious with his desire not to speak to his son and only help within the shadows. And it's such a cool fucking thing. Again, they take the show in directions you would sort of expect, but at the same time, they really add on it, and it's fucking great. Hope you guys like the red lights in the background, by the way. It's blood. Dexter's desire to help his son continues as he sneaks into the hotel to try and cover Harrison's tracks and check any potential mistakes he made with the cleanup process of his murder. So fucking cool. It's how he's doing stuff like this. Yet at the same time, the NYPD is also in the area, of course, fucking crime scene, breaking down the scene and proving that Harrison is dealing with an impressive pair of detectives. All the while, Harrison is still seeing Ryan's bloodied body within his own head, providing a unique jump scare element to the episode. That was cool. I mean, obviously this kind of sets up to be a sort of horror show, but not to that extent, and it's really cool here. Dexter eventually gets into the kitchen where Harrison chopped up Ryan's body, where he's able to clean up the small traces of blood that he left in the first place, removing some significant evidence, highlighting his fatherly help without Harrison even knowing. However, Harrison ends up having a nightmare about killing his father as he seemingly spots him, while he then sells the truck he stole from his father, which, unbeknownst to him, allows Batista to know that Dexter is in New York due to tracking information. Even small scenes such as Dexter seeing a child eating too many pancakes at breakfast, or the fatherly connection between Blessing and his daughter, the importance of this bond is a running theme, and again, the subtleties, the way they kind of get into that is really, really cool. Dexter even takes an apartment from Blessing just to be around to continue watching Harrison, pushing the narrative even more. He is here in New York to stay, and it's going to be really cool to kind of see Dexter adjust to that lifestyle. One more thing, this series isn't going to be racing through any storylines. This episode allows the show to get into the grittier details, and this is going to be really interesting. I think one of the brilliant aspects of this episode is that it takes Dexter back to his original roots of hunting down a serial killer, proving that the classic magic of what made the show popular in the first place won't be lost among everything else that's going on. It's not even close to losing steam. They're doing great. However, it also freshened up his character and proved he's slightly changing, as a big takeaway from the episode was how Dexter stopped the Dark Passenger from killing somebody else, which was a drastic change from how he's typically been portrayed over the years. He's not a hero, he's a vigilante. He's not Spider-Man, he's Batman, but he's kind of getting into that Spider-Man phase. And obviously people aren't going to know about it because that's going to raise his suspicion as a New York resident, and his name's going to get too much attention around the town. Angel Batista's already going to be on his ass even more than he is now, and all that stuff. So it's a very interesting thing to kind of look at. He's changed. His character has developed. Even in the sequel, where at this point in most TV franchises, it's pretty worn down. Talk about The Walking Dead. Maybe not Breaking Bad, that's probably a bad example, but Game of Thrones. By this point in most shows, it would be pretty worn out, but man, he had a complete character change here, and it's awesome. The episode develops all of the major storylines from the murder Harrison committed to Angel Batista, who is still looking for Dexter, while introducing new characters and ideas that will have an impact as the show goes on. There's lots of details, and it proves that the writers are going to take their time and do a deep dive into every aspect to ensure this is a detailed series just as the original was. And one thing I would say about Original Sin is that I guess with Original Sin they did kind of go a little bit too fast. Obviously we know that there's a season 2 coming, so you don't really fret about that, you don't really worry about that, but kind of watching this, it's like, based on what New Blood was, this is a sequel series, it's probably going to only be a season long unless it's so fucking successful. By the way, I don't think New Blood's even going to be as successful as this when it comes down to it. This may be so successful that they jump into another season. I don't know how they're going to end it. I don't know what their plan is for this first season, but man, I don't know. It's crazy stuff. The episode also hints that Uma Thurman's character, Charley, reappears as she makes it clear to Keith that he's not gaining any more money from her boss. That whole storyline did kind of confuse me, and to an extent, I think that is kind of like the intrigue that I'm getting from this episode, is you're introducing this new character, and Uma Thurman is playing her, and she's already been shown to be a fucking badass. That's so awesome. Charley gonna be this separate kind of entity. Obviously she kind of tracks serial killers, and she bribes serial killers to kill. I don't really know. We're gonna need a little bit more of her character. I think they make it subtle enough to where my interests are piqued. Keith obviously threatens to go to the police with the information, but he gets bludgeoned to the head for his troubles. Given that the trailer gave away the idea of multiple serial killers, I didn't see the trailer, but there is an idea of multiple serial killers kind of hinted at. I'm kind of happy I don't watch teasers anymore. This was certainly an interesting moment that seems to give a wink at what's to come for the show, and what was another pretty impressive episode of of the show. I do like the first episode, probably a little more just because how fast-paced it is and like reintroducing the characters, all the legacy characters coming back, the fan service, the nostalgia that it delivers on. But this one is really good at moving the story forward. It's a very good kind of transitionary episode. Now, I'm not sure what direction they took in episode 3. Like, are they going to ramp it up? Is it going to be energetic? But yeah, it obviously feels inevitable for Dexter to kind of reclaim his name. He's always known for capturing his targets eventually, so there's no reason why this should be any different, you know, like kind of just talking about if Dexter will catch the Dark Passenger. That's kind of one of the more intriguing storylines to come. Maybe he'll take his place as the Dark Passenger. There's all sorts of fan theories. You guys can go look at the internet. There's a bunch of people talking about it. Leon and Charley don't know he's the BHB, or they wouldn't introduce a serial killer to a room full of serial killers. Is there like a serial killer kind of legion, like a underworld thing, kind of like you see in the John Wick films? I'm kind of confused. I'm gonna have to watch some videos to kind of break it down. That's fine. It's fine to be confused, I think, but really good episode overall. I think, you know, the relationship, kind of the subtle relationship between Dexter and Harrison. Obviously Harrison doesn't know that he's there, but I think that relationship's really awesome, really intriguing, and I think at least for the next 8 episodes that's going to be really fun to watch. Again, I don't know what their plan is with the series. Obviously we know for sure that there's 4 episodes coming out. They've already made promo pieces for the next episode, but there you kind of have it. I am out, guys. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. As always, has been GZTV. Again, I don't really take the time to review as much as I recap these episodes, so if you want to expand it down in the comment section down below, please do so. And also, if these videos aren't as edited as most of my like movie reviews and stuff, that's because I'm trying to pump these videos out. There's already 3 episodes of it out. We're only on episode 2. Still have another episode to watch and an even other episode to watch, and we have Tyler the Creator, we have Happy Gilmore 2, we have all sorts of these different things like the picks of the week for music. I have a bunch of video ideas, so just to kind of make this simple, this is kind of what you're gonna get, hopefully. I mean, if you have negative feedback, if you want to let me know something that I can do with my videos, please let me know. I'm out.